Hello, MJ7NLK here and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are looking at the all-new President George II CB radio. This is an important release for President as it's their first single sideband radio in a very long time. It was first announced way back in early 2021 and finally became available in September 2023. There are two variants of this radio, the President George II, which is the European model, and the President George FCC, which is the North American version. Both versions have AM, FM and single sideband and appear identical. However, the FCC model will have the addition of weather alerts and will most likely not be expandable. The standard frequency range is 26965 to 27405 MHz on both variants, and the EU model, when expanded, is 24715 to 30105, presented in the A through L band blocks as usual. Power out of the box is quoted as 4 watt AM and FM and 12 watt PEP for single sideband. We will find out what power the EU variant can achieve in the expanded mode a bit later on. So coming up, unboxing and first look, general operation, hidden factory services menu, standard power tests, opening up the George II, expanding the George II, and the expanded power tests. So please do stick around. Before we continue, a quick message from this video's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay are makers of prototype PCBs of all kinds. They also offer services like PCB assembly, CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication and injection moulding. Manufacturing times are exceptionally quick and delivery is super fast. I have used their services on many occasions and PCBWay get the NLK-Media thumbs up for quality and service. Check out their website pcbway.com for more information or follow the link in the video description. Thank you PCBWay for your kind support during 2023. So what are the options in the President lineup for single sideband radios? There were only 2 single sideband radios offered in the current President range, and the addition of the George II now takes that to 3. However, only 2 of the radios are type approved for transmitting on CB frequencies, and the third is a ham radio which can be expanded to cover CB frequencies but is not type approved, so is not a legal option. Let's take a look at these choices. The President McKinley. This is a fantastic radio. It has a front-firing speaker which makes this a very versatile unit. Although due to the large proportion of the fascia being taken up by the speaker, the buttons are small and have to serve multiple uses. There is no support on this radio for CT, CSS and DCS tones and codes, and the current price of this unit is around £299. The President George II. It has a super large screen and a much better button size and placement. It has support for CT, CSS and DCS tones and codes and is currently priced at around £339. This is the radio that we will be looking at in detail today. The President Lincoln II Plus. This is a beast of a radio, but it is a ham radio, which requires you to sit an exam and obtain your ham license before you can transmit on it. Out of the box, it covers 10 and 12 metre bands, but it can be expanded to also cover the 11 metre CB band. However, the Lincoln II Plus is not type approved for the 11 metre band, so regardless of ham license is not an legal option when transmitting on the 11 metre band. This radio is currently priced at £289. Taking a quick look over the box, on the front you can see AM, FM and most importantly single sideband, has the usual 7 colour display, Note the box has the US English spelling for colour and not the UK English spelling, which is a bit unusual on a European radio. It has automatic squelch control, auto SWR, scan, skip, Vox and NRC. On the side, it says it supports all European norms, which are EU, EC, Poland, Germany and UK. It also includes a norm for India as well. Now, looking at the back of the radio, it looks like a standard DNC 520 up-down microphone. It has a standard SO239 antenna connector, jacks for Vox, PA and external speaker, and hooray, President, thank you, a socketed power connector, which I much prefer over the tethered cable. It's also nice to see RF gain, mic gain and RF power options, although I'm not a fan of multifunction items. So the RF power appears that you need to remember to hold the PTT button and use the rotary dial, which I guess kind of makes sense. Note, this is a 12 volt radio only and does not support 24 volts. The McKinley supports both 12 and 24 volts, as you can see on the box behind me. And on the front of the radio, it has the USB socket for powering external devices such as mobile phones. So let's get this opened up and see what's included inside. So let's open up the George 2. Inside the box, we get the usual #1 CB President sticker, the extremely thin user manual. We get a pack for the accessories. We'll take a look at that in a moment. And we get the radio itself. Let's have a look at this. Oh, it's certainly weighty. It's got a lovely big heatsink on the back, so that bodes well for power tests. And it looks nice, and I quite like the chrome bezel on the front. But let's just put that to one side and have a look in the accessories box. We have the usual packet of bits and bobs. But we do appear to have some sticky feet as well, which is nice to see. I've not seen that before with the President radios. We have a spare few fuse and screws, nuts and bolts. We have the microphone. We'll look at that in a moment. We have a mounting bracket, which is excellent. The power cable, as mentioned before, which is socketed. I really do like that. And we have a pen. I don't see any branding on this pen. So I don't know if that's come from Knights, who have supplied this unit, or whether that came from President. I have absolutely no idea. Let's have a look at the microphone. It is the standard DNC 520 up-down, so that's nice to see. And that's what's in the box. Now, before we move on, I'm going to have to get my dick out. And before you recoil in shock, that's my President Richard, my favourite radio. And let's just compare the size and see. It's definitely bigger. It's definitely larger. I don't know if that's going to come across on the camera very well. Maybe the overhead will get that in. It is a little tiny bit longer, and it's certainly a bit wider as well. So the unit is but it's very similar. The heatsink is very much the same. The layout is the same with the antenna and the sockets and the socketed power. So I mean, they are very, very similar. It's just the President George 2 is a little bit bigger than my dick. Okay, let's move on. So the first thing we're going to cover under general operation is how to set norms. And to do this, you turn the radio off. You press and hold the F key, and then you keep it pressed and you turn the radio on and then release the F key. And you'll get a flashing indicator. U is UK, and we have EC. I'm using the buttons, up-down buttons on the microphone to effectively change these. D, PL, EU, IN, and then back to U. Once you have the norm that you want, press and hold the F key. You'll hear a beep and then turn the radio off. And it's as simple as that. When you turn the radio back on, it will select the UK norm, because that's what I set, and all of the frequencies and available modes will all be set for that norm. Now, another thing that's worth looking at is on the face of the radio. It's quite clear, but if you look above all of these keys, you'll see that there is writing in white, and to activate that particular option, it's a long press of that key. So short press for what's on the face of the key, long press for what's written above. And then there's a few keys which have blue next to them. There's one here and there's one on the rotary dial. And effectively that requires you to push and hold the PTT button. And when you push and hold the PTT button and then short press that key, you access that particular function. So that's nice and clear, and everything is printed on the face of the unit. Now, for anybody who might be interested, the radio is consuming 0.25 amps at idle, which it's consuming at the moment. And then when I'm keying up, we're going up to 2.85 amps in standard mode when transmitting. And that's on FM. To access the radio's main menu, you press and hold the rotary dial and push it in. And then you switch into the menu, and you can use the rotary dial or the up-down buttons of the microphone to switch between the relevant options. We won't go through all of them, and if you leave it for a certain amount of time, it will automatically kick you back out. So we're going to go to key beep, and to set this, we push the rotary dial again, and then turn the rotary dial to select the option, and then push again. So key beep off. And Roger beep, we've got to turn that on. So push, we'll have Roger beep number 1, and we'll set that one. And then this INDIC, it's a very interesting abbreviation, but INDIC means what is going to be shown on the front display of the radio, whether it's going to have the frequency and different options. You can look that up in the manual and see, but we'll have a quick flick through and see what the other options are. So we have INDIC, scan mode, scan type, scan skip, PA settings, mic type, SWR auto, NRC settings, code settings, emergency, etc. We'll just quickly flick through all of those. There's quite a lot of options in here, and then back to the color. Now, one thing I did notice, if we just key up to get back to the menu, is that if you push and hold the NRC button, it will take you to the NRC settings that you would get to in the menu, which is quite nice. So next up, we're going to have a look at the factory services menu. This is a secret menu used by the President technicians at the factory to calibrate your radio. It allows you to adjust deviation, modulation and power outputs. The menu options available will depend on if the radio has been expanded or if it's in stock mode. Take care here in this menu, as you could damage your radio, and always follow the simple rule. Write down your standard factory calibrated settings prior to making any changes so you can always restore them. To access the menu, we have to perform some ninja moves, and these ninja moves involve push and hold the PTT button. At the same time, push the F and the TB button, so you're holding 3 buttons down. Then turn the radio on, and it will display a white screen that says test, and then you have a limited amount of time to do a single press on the NRC button, then the echo button, and then the Vox button, and that will get you into the factory services menu. So let's do that now. Hold PTT, push both buttons, turn the radio on, and then we have a short period of time, NRC, Echo, Vox. And there we go, we're in the factory services menu. So we're going to have a quick run through of these options. We have IQ1, TX-IQ1, TX-IQ2, FM power mid, FM power low. We have FM TX mod, AM power mid, and AM power low. Now it's nice to see on this radio that they've split the power so that you can adjust the power settings for AM and FM independently. A lot of the time on the other radios from President, there is just a power option and it adjusts both at the same time. So that's nice to see that they've been split. We then have AM mod low, AM mod medium. We have single sideband and DCMI, DCLO, mod low, mod mid, and then the version number of the software. So those are the settings within the factory services menu. Let's just go to FM medium, MI. I'm expecting an FM POW and then HI when we expand the radio. If you push and hold the PTT button, it will tell you the current value, and the value here is 82. So you would then, keeping the button depressed, you can increase or decrease those options to alter the settings. Now it's showing me the power output. I can see I'm outputting 4 watts on the old bird. So it's 82, and we can see how far it will let us go in the mid. So it goes up to 90 on mid, and that is about 4.5 watts. So we'll go back to 82, and then you just release. So there are adjustable power settings in this radio. So if we turn it off and we turn it back on, when we get a boot up to the UK, so we're in the UK mode at the moment, if you push and hold the PTT and then push the rotary dial, it'll have RF power, and you can dial the power back. And then if I put it down to 01, we're outputting about 0.5 watt, somewhere around there, and then you can up it again. So in high power mode, we should be able to use that to great effect to be able to dial the power back. If the radio is outputting 20 watts and we really don't want 20 watts because we want the expanded channels, we could just dial it back to 4 watts and know exactly where we are. So let's have a look at a standard power test. The old bird has made an appearance. She's come out for the day, smelling a little bit of lavender and piss, but she's okay. She's all right. She's doing well. So we're in AM mode, channel 20 mid band. Let's have a look and see. Oh, sorry, I need to turn that on. So the carrier's outputting about 4 watts. Let's put a continuous tone in. I'd say that's about 12.5, roughly 12.5, which is what I would expect. And then we'll switch to FM. It's about 4 watts, just under, and FM UK. Exactly the same. So in the standard mode, we've gone through the various power outputs, and we'll now move on to disassembling this unit. A word of warning, opening up your George 2 will invalidate your manufacturer's warranty, so please bear that in mind. If you decide to open or modify your radio, it is done at your own risk. So we need to remove, I'm going to remove the top and the bottom. The bottom is the area you need to get into in order to see the main circuit board, but I have a feeling we're going to have to desolder a wire, and in order to do that we need to gain access to both sides of the board. So ahead of that, I'm going to remove both covers. Now the best bit here is I not only get to break the warranty sticker from President, but I also get to do exactly the same from Knights, one of Doug's stickers. So we're going to have a double sticker breaking going on here. I may have to cut them. Let me peel them off if I can. That's Doug's. It's a bit harder to get the President one off, but we'll just tear it. So underside of the board, and then we're going to have the speaker to deal with. So going to remove the speaker cable, so it's red to the right should the socket come off, and yep, that's a 3-watt speaker. And then we have the insides of the radio. Right, I've cleaned up the cases, got all those awful warranty stickers off, and you can probably see that we made a good job of that on both side panels. And the secret to getting those stickers off, because they are not easy to get off, is to use this stuff. So it's made by Dissolve It Sticky Stuff Remover. It's very, very similar to Goo Gone, which is sold in the States. So let's now have a look at the PCB. Before we proceed with modifying the radio, we need to get the disclaimer out of the way. Modifying a radio is at your own risk. You will have legal obligations in your region with regards to radio transmissions, licensing and power outputs. You should always ensure that you are not causing a nuisance, or more importantly, not causing any radio interference or distress to others. Please do not break the law in your region. The information provided in this section of the video is intended for countries like Australia, Argentina, Bangladesh, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico, New Zealand, Pakistan, the Philippines, Panama, etc. These countries have a higher power output than the UK, EU and the USA. But please do bear in mind that laws do change, so ensure you've researched the current laws in your region. Right, now that's over, let's get on with expanding the radio. So to expand the radio, or to set the radio into export mode, we need to move this jumper from position 1, 2 to 2, 3. So we just lift it up and move it over. And this white loop wire here, we need to desolder it from this end, and we need to resolder it into the hole next to it. Now, very unhelpfully, President have blocked that hole with solder, so we're going to have to perform a little bit of desoldering in order to relocate this wire. Now, it might seem a little mad, but you have to add some leaded solder to the solder, lead-free solder that they've used at the factory. Leaded solder melts at a much lower temperature and will cause less damage to the board. So what I did was I added leaded solder to the lead-free solder, which then reduces the melting point, and then I was then able to heat it at 380 degrees and pull the wire out. So now I need to insert the wire into the second hole, and of course that hole is blocked. Thank you very much, President. So I'm going to try heating it up from the underside and seeing if we can push through. If not, then we'll need to add some leaded solder and we'll have to wick the hole clear. So I'm going to crack on with that. Okay, that's done. So the wire has been relocated and the jumper has been moved. It was a pain in the backside to wick that out, and again I had to use leaded solder in the hole to effectively, and come from both sides to, that sounds rude, to effectively clear it, and then I was able to get the wire in. So that's the modification complete. You just need to take your time, a fine end on your soldering iron and some decent leaded solder will really help you out in order to unblock that hole. So we've reassembled, and I'm using my Nisai power meter because I only have a 25 watt, a 5 watt, a 10 watt and a 25 watt slug in my old bird, and I suspect, judging by the rear of this George 2 being very, very similar to the President Richard, that this is going to well exceed 25 watts. So let's turn it on and have a look. So T5, that's expected. That's telling me that it's plus 5 kilohertz and it's in export mode, which is great. Let's have a in fact let's just do a standard power test in FM and see what we're getting. So about 36 watts. Let's have a look in AM. Let's do FM. 34.8 for FM, 36 for FM UK, and AM. The carrier's about 11, and a continual tone 26 to 27 watts. So quite an increase. Let's jump into the factory services menu and remember the ninja moves. Right, let's see what we get in here. So IQ1, a version, IQ1, IQ2. We have FM power top, and the default value there is 193 on my radio. We have FM power high, 122 on my radio. Mid, 82. Low, 49. So those are the FM power settings. Let's just check AM. AM top, 188. High, 172. Medium, 119. And low, 73. So do we get anything else in here? Not really. Just the additional settings there for top and high. So let's have a look at FM power top. So that's 34 watts. Remember, that's FM, not FM UK. So that's 34 watts. Let's just see if it'll go any higher. 193, 194, 5, 6, 7, 9, 200, 201. So 201 is the maximum value for FM power top. And let's just check AM. AM power top. So 188. I imagine this will go to 201 as well. No, 196 is the highest value at 12.8. Let's just retest. So we're in AM, band block A, channel 20, 12.7 watts, and let's do continual tone. 27 watt. Power draw. In AM we're looking at about 4.2 amps. Let's have a look in FM. Let's do FM UK. 40 watts is what we're pumping out on FM UK, and 6.91 amps is what's being drawn. So close to 7 amps is being pulled by the radio. So I hope it's got a 10 amp fuse in its on its power cable. Let's just check standard FM. 38.5 watts is what we're pumping out there. So let's have a look in FM UK and let's see if we can dial the power back to a reasonable level. So at power level 2 we're about 3.6 and then we seem to jump to 8. 3.7 watts. So there we go, the radio has been modified and it is putting out a significant amount of power compared to what it was before. In conclusion, which President radio should you choose? Well, let's discount the Lincoln 2 Plus due to it not being type approved for the 11 metre band, and we then need to decide between the McKinley and the George 2. The McKinley has a smaller screen and buttons, and it's a bit cramped to use, but on the other hand has a front-firing speaker and supports 24 volts, which keeps the truckers happy. The George 2 has a better overall layout and comes with the addition of CTCSS and DCS tones and codes. If you're installing this radio in a place where the base speaker is covered, you can always use an external speaker to overcome that. It also has a handy USB socket on the front. Neither of the radios support programming via a cable from your computer like the Lincoln 2 does. Both radios are exceptionally good, and the differences are minor, so it's down to personal choice, but I would choose the George 2. So there we have it, a new king is born, the McKinley has been dethroned, and the George 2 is the new king of the hill. I hope you found the information in this video helpful. If you did, then please help the channel out by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. This really does help to ensure that I can continue to provide content. Please feel free to buy me a coffee, details are in the description below, and if you have any questions or comments then you know what to do, in the comments section below. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Trolls and nasty know-it-alls need not apply. Well, until next time, stay safe, stay happy, catch you in the next one.